A couple people, reached out to Bill Ackman and they started asking him questions, and Ackman responded. Those responses now have led to PSTH, Pershing Square, filing a disclosure statement on a press release saying that if you want to know more about the company, you need to follow Bill Ackman on Twitter, because they could make statements public via the Twitter account of their chairman, Bill Ackman. So to me, that screams either, hey, Bill Ackman was, saying stuff he shouldn't have, or hey, Bill Ackman saying stuff and it's about to happen. So 3 tweets jump out. And again, this is Bill Ackman. He doesn't tweet a lot. He tweeted 6 times in the month of February.
Look, he's got 161 tweets in the history of his account.
Right. He doesn't tweet a lot. And now all of a sudden you have some information that could be very, beneficial to shareholders. So the 3 big tweets were that he said, someone asked him, hey, you're launching a second SPAC. Could shareholders of the first SPAC receive first access to those shares at the offering price? And he said, sure, done. And then the second one was someone questioning, hey, how are you going to be able to track, who's a shareholder and get them first access? And he said, quote, we have the technology, unquote. And then another person asked, because of that second SPAC, hey, are you going to announce a deal for PSTH before you announce a deal for your second SPAC? And he simply just said, yes. So 3 big tweets, which again may not seem like a big deal, but to me, I read through that and the biggest thing that stands out is, hey, he just confirmed that they're launching a second SPAC. So that was rumored on Twitter. Someone found the filing. Back Tiger, who I follow on Twitter, we got a headline out on Benzinga Pro that said, Pershing Square Holdings 2 has been filed, but there isn't, an actual document yet. Just the name was filed. Ackman confirmed that, right? He didn't come out and say, hey, we haven't launched a second SPAC. Hey, we're not doing a second SPAC. He said, yeah. And then the other thing is reward his shareholders of PSTH. So what could that mean? Will we see people jumping into PSTH now so they can receive, access to the next SPAC at that offering price? And then the other big thing is him saying that a deal will be announced for PSTH before the second SPAC. While it may seem like a no-brainer based on the timeline, to me it jumps out as saying, hey, he could be close to announcing something. Because again, this second SPAC could be a completely different size in terms of dollars. It could be targeting a different market. So what's to stop that second one from getting a deal done first, based on the size of it or the potential targets, maybe a bigger pool, whereas PSTH only has like 30 companies to choose from based on the size. So what do you think, Spencer? What do you read from those tweets, if anything?
First off, I'm excited that I would get some kind of privilege, some kind of better position in line in the second one, but I can't even think about that because I'm still worried about the first one, right? We don't even know. In some cases, the size of the SPAC is almost a hindrance, right?
Absolutely.
Because it limits who they could buy at what can be considered like a quote-unquote reasonable valuation. Right? There are only so many like how big is this SPAC? 5 billion?
Yeah, over $5 billion.
There are only so many companies available for $5 billion, and he's already limited himself to the financial services world. I mean, how many companies within that space are there? We've talked about this a number of times on this show. Coinbase, well, not anymore. Right? They're doing a direct listing. Stripe, maybe. We don't know. You know what I mean? But there are only so many options out there. I would like to see the market react positively to the first transaction before I consider necessarily getting in on the second one. Because again, I bought this because I thought Bill Ackman, if anyone could buy a growth company without paying a ridiculous premium, it'd be Bill Ackman, right? I'm not owning this for a trade. If I owned this for a trade, I'd probably get out when they announced the deal. But I have faith in Bill Ackman's ability to find a good company. I would like to see A, that happen, B, the market react positively to such an event before I even think about getting in on a second PSTH. I would assume he can raise the money. That's not an issue, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue. And, Spencer, you bring up an interesting point talking about, the timeline and when maybe, you could sell shares.
Yeah.
So that's my question to you. Again, I don't own PSTH. I know you do.
Yeah.
So if he has laid out a plan, and say he puts this plan out there that, hey, anyone who owns PSTH up until X date will get first crack at the second SPAC. Do you think that keeps people from selling when PSTH announces a deal, if they announce that deal before the second SPAC is filed, because everyone's going to want to stay in line for that second SPAC?
That could create a very interesting, almost like an ex-dividend type of an event. Right. Where you have people watching the calendar, people who have their one eye on the calendar, and they're like, all right, I need to hold by this on this day. I need to hold if I want to get access to the second SPAC. And then when that day hits and there was that first day afterward, that could be a very interesting tradable event if that's the way they do things. I'm not saying we don't know if they will, but that can make for some interesting volatility in PSTH. In a way, could end up screwing the people who decide they want to hold, but you might see people play it like they would a dividend capture, right? Where you play into the dividend and you sell after the X date, and then you see the stock adjust, and it doesn't always adjust based on the dividend. Sometimes it goes down more, sometimes it goes down less, and there's your alpha, right? So that can make for a very interesting date. I don't know what I would do to answer your question, Chris, to be honest with you. I really don't. Like I said, I want to hold at PSTH, so I probably wouldn't sell it. I won't sell before any merger they announce. Again, he said they would announce the first deal before they announce the second SPAC, right? I guess what I want to do is wait and see who's that first deal. And if it's a company that I want to own, then yeah, sure, I'll get into Ackman SPAC 2.0. But if it's a company that I don't want to own, then I don't see why I would do that, regardless of whether or not I'm second in line or third in line or whatever. Obviously, the initial investors are first. I just want to see some progress. It's been frustrating to see a lot of these SPACs move a lot on these announcements, and I understand that Ackman is doing his due diligence and going about this, the smart way. But it's hard not to have some FOMO, right? When you buy this thing because it's got the Ackman brand, and really prior to the last couple of days, hasn't really done that much. So. Been a little frustrating for me.
Right.
I would love to hear about people in the chat.